think it's all set. Well, welcome back to the studio and welcome back to the channel. I'm Kelly, and today I'm going to be working on coming up with a new pattern design that is based on the ocean liners from the early 20th century, so around the era of Titanic. Now, I've been doing a lot of research on ocean liners lately, basically sparked by the channel on YouTube, Ocean Liner Designs, and I've really gotten into that era, and in particular the damask pattern styles. So I've been looking at a lot of different images from that era, and I have a sketch up at the moment, but let me bring up some of the reference that I've been looking at. Let me just drag this down. So I've been looking at, let's see, what is this website? So this is SS Maritime, and they have a lot of pictures of different cruise ships and different ocean liners. And I've been looking at, right now I have the Olympic pulled up. So I've been looking at some of the patterns they've used in wallpaper and the things like the furnishings and the floors. I was looking specifically for images from the Titanic. One thing I found when I was doing my research is that if you look up pictures from the Titanic, the interiors, and then you look at the Olympic, they're almost always the same pictures. Not always, but almost always. So I'm not really sure if there are a lot of pictures that are the interior of the Titanic. So that's what I've been doing, looking at ones from the Olympic instead. So let me just find something with some pattern to it. This rug is rather loud here, but one of the things I actually like looking for is really bad photo reference. Because I'm just trying to get some ideas and to spark some ideas. So if you look at the back of these chairs here, I can't tell really what the back of that chair looks like, but I'm getting some ideas from some of the shapes. And also these pillows over here with this kind of honeycomb sort of look, and they've got like maybe a flower or like a rondelle, something in the center of that. That's interesting to me. I also like the trim panels here, these little flourishes at the bottoms and tops of these panels in the trim. And the carpet, I mean, this picture is really bad for the carpet, so I can't really see what's happening there. But it's just about getting little hints and little ideas from things. These stair rails are a really good example too. They have these really swooping curves, which is really nice. Could use that in something. Same thing with this, I guess it's the dome, the glass domes that were over the stairwells. It has like a really simplified geometric pattern, which is, a different idea that I could go for sometime. So yeah, I've just been like looking back and forth from these pictures. I was also looking at pictures from I guess it's the Library of Congress. I was kind of searching for wherever I could find images that are interiors of that time period. So I was specifically looking for ocean liners, but also any kind of interiors that I could find. So let me move this out of the way. I've been working on a couple. I'm just going to move that, and I'm going to scroll down to the picture I was using. If I can find it. I think it was the Olympic. I have a couple ships open, so I'm not 100% sure. I think this was the one. Let me pull this down. So this was the one that I was kind of getting an idea off of for this pattern design. So if you look here, it's very, I can't really tell what it is. It's like a really large diamondy shape. Let me pull this into Photoshop and I'll do some drawovers. All right, so if I pull this up and make it a little bit bigger, and I'm focusing on this side here, on the side of the doorway, just so I can see what's happening. So if I try to trace out sort of the general idea of this shape, it's got kind of a diamond part up here, but then it comes down. And then I'm kind of have to go around to different ones here, it looks like. So from here, it looks like it goes up like this. And these are going to be the same on both sides, so I can just extrapolate what I'm seeing. And then I'm looking now over the bed to try to get an idea of where this shape goes next. It kind of has well, here's the bottom. So just draw that in. And then it kind of seems to flare out. It looks like it repeats right here, so I'm going to cut that off there. So it seems to repeat sort of like this. And then let's see, it comes down further like this. So it's almost like a really big butterfly layout. When I'm looking at these patterns and I want to figure out where the layout is, I'm just looking to kind of go over the main shape itself, because you can really get, really worked up into these little details here and these little flourishes and this little sort of palm tree thing going on. Whoops, I drew on that layer. But that's not really necessary when I'm just looking at the actual shape, because if I had drawn this on a different layer, I would then take this and then try to figure out how this repeats. So essentially I'm just learning how the repeat works by drawing it. But then I want to kind of take this idea and combine it with a few other ideas to sort of come up with my own. So at the moment, this is what I'm working on. I have two designs actually that I sketched. So I sketched this first one here. Let me see if I can turn off this other sketch layer. So I have this first one here that I worked on. It's kind of based on that bedroom a little bit, but I went rogue. You can see it doesn't have that sort of shape. And then the other one, oops, same one, also same one. So with this one, when I laid it out in a repeat, the shape that I used for the repeat was a bit simpler, just essentially an arrowhead repeat. So when I'm putting this into Illustrator, I would just be essentially using this arrow-shaped bit as like the puzzle piece. So that's the first idea that I had. The second idea I had was based a bit on, let me see if I can find it. Was a bit on a wallpaper, but also that idea of the scrolling and the twining that you saw on the stairwells there. So for this one, we have this main element here, and then it kind of scrolls off. Whoops. And here it scrolls off like this, and then scrolls down into here and comes back up. And at this point, it's kind of scrolling off into a flower arrangement here. So if I turn that off, essentially this is the repeat. And what I'd be doing is then just taking this, shrinking it down, and figuring out how I would want to repeat this. Obviously it needs to be duplicated because I only drew half of it. So let's do that first. Oops. Come on. So I'm going to line this up first. Oops, if I can grab it. To where it's repeating. So let me see. So this one, how would we want to make this repeat? So we could go straight down. That's the first option. And then essentially it would be just a straight block repeat. So I'm going to overlap these because that's where they would actually show up. So that's, essentially that's a basic stripe. That's one option. I also did another one. I honestly don't remember if I did it differently or not. So let me pull that up. So this is the same shape, just drawn a little bit differently. And yeah, I essentially did the same thing, but they're a little bit more offset. So in this one I drew it so that you still have the striping effect, but then it kind of, the flowers are put a little bit further down. So you get a little more of a bit of a scrolling look. So I think, so I could go with either one of these to work on today. I'm going to make both of them. One issue I was having with this one when I was sketching it out was just how to depict these little peony flowers over here. So I sketched out, these are the kind of flowers that I'm working on here. And I just sketched out a couple different variations on these. Let me see if I can pull that up. Yeah, it's this page. Whoops. Yeah, so you have just, I guess I only did two flower options for here. Just trying to get an idea of how I might depict the flower. But I think I'm actually going to go with the other one for now because it would be a lot simpler to get started and maybe to finish. So for that one, instead of doing all acanthus leaves, one thing I was thinking was instead doing all like feather elements. I can see doing that. Let me just take this down. I'm going to move this out here. This folder's getting really messy. I'm going to move it to the top and close this folder. And then I'll add another layer on top, and I'm going to bring this one down to template it. And we'll see how that works. And then I'm just going to lock this layer. All right. So at this point, I don't want to get the sketch to be exact. I'm going to worry about that when I get into Illustrator. Right now, all I want to do is get a better idea of, let me just drop this down, a better idea of what it's going to look like once I get it in there. Because I found that if I leave things too loose, then when I get into Illustrator, I have issues with getting it to all line up. So at the moment, I'm just going to kind of do some rough sketching. If you have any questions at any point in time, be sure to put those down in the comments. Another thing that I found when I was looking at different design elements were these kind of, I guess they're kind of like a fire effect sort of look. So I'm going to include those when I sketch this. And I'm going to put that right here in this central element. And then in the bit that I have cross-hatched, there's a couple different options that I could do there. Let me just erase this. I'm going to erase all of that actually. Start over. So let's see. Do maybe like a reversed flame thing. So it kind of goes in both directions. Let's try that. That looks a lot like a spider. So we'll scrap that. Okay. Maybe we'll just do one, almost like a gemstone sort of a look. Not exactly sure how to make this not look like a spider, because that's not what I was going for, but figure out something there. And then like this, a bit like that. I know I definitely want some of these feather elements to curve back on themselves, so I'm going to try to remember to keep that in when I'm sketching this. These two elements here are too closely together and too similar in size, so I'm going to take that out. And then maybe, because I have all this space to work in, so if we put the green line back in here, I still have all of this, more or less, all this space to work in. So I'm trying to keep it, I'll drop that down there. I'm trying to keep it inside this shape just to make it an easy thing to repeat when I get into Illustrator, but it's okay if I deviate a little bit at this point. So if I have all this space here, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this down a lot further and then maybe have something right here. And then this line bit I want to keep. And let's see. Need something right in here. So I'm gonna I'll just make in the bits that are green are the bits I still want to fill with something. And then maybe, what if it curves back? No, it should not curve back. Gonna just fill these out a little bit more up here to give myself an idea of what I'm looking at. Yeah, that sort of thing. That should overlap. And I'm going to bring this feather out further. Let's see, drop the opacity on the eraser. Because I want to keep some of these lines that I'm not using just in case I want to go back and use them. Okay. So this space here, this green empty space, what if it has something like that? So maybe it'll look a little less insect-like if we move these leaves down. Yeah, I like the flow of that. That looks good. Kind of has more of the feather look that I'm looking for, so more of the kind of over the top twirly thing. And when I go to tighten this up a bit in a minute, I think that'll look good there. I'm still not entirely sold on this central bit, so let me just take that down a bit and work on this element. So I'm liking bits coming off of it in different directions. This top part is still in question, but what if I change the shape here to something like this? That has potential. And then I do want a feather that kind of curls back at the base of this little crossing area here. I think that's what I'm going for right there. Okay, so I'm just going to erase this green line that I stuck all over the place and then work on refining this. And at this point, all I want to do is get the shapes in enough clarity so that when I go into Illustrator, I'm not constantly wondering what I drew. And with this one, because it's going to be a repeat, I'm just going to double it and I'm going to flip it. Because I like to draw the whole thing. That way I can make little modifications if I want. But it also lets me see the whole thing in real time. I like that shape. Let me get rid of the template. And that's what we're working on. It kind of has like a, I don't know, I kind of see like an over-the-top crown sort of situation, at least in this top bit here. So I'm going to, I don't think I need to erase anything from the second layer. Let me just see. Nope, whoops, wrong side. Yeah, that's fine. All right, so now this is going to be the template. Merge these and then drop it down again in opacity. That's good, and I'll turn this off. I don't need that. So at this point too, I want to make sure that it's big enough. So when I bring this into Illustrator, I'm just going to draw straight over top of it. You know what? I'll shrink it back down. It's easier to sketch this way, and I'll just make it bigger when I'm done. Let's see. One thing. Nah, I'm not going to adjust it. Never mind. I was wondering if I wanted to adjust the shape at all, because I didn't exactly keep that shape. It's got more of like a, thicker triangle here and then down. So I guess it's more of a pentagram now. But I think I'll work with that. Let me just see what this would look like in a repeat. So I'm going to shrink this down and then just repeat it. I'll bring it back in opacity all the way to the top. Let's see, how did I do that other repeat? Alright, that repeat's not going to work for this, but let me just put that here on the side so I can see it. Okay. So I'm going to start with lining things up, and then I think at this point that's when maybe I'll have to adjust my shape a little. I wonder if that would work. Sort of a half drop situation. Essentially I want to get 3 rows to make sure that it's working. So it usually gives me a good idea of how it's going to actually look. Yeah, actually that works. I'm okay with that. Alright, I'm going to get rid of all these because I don't need them, and then we'll work on refining the main one. Okay. At this point, I'm a really loose sketcher, so I'm not going to worry too much about getting the lines perfect, but it's just about getting a better idea of where things are going to go. And actually I'm going to drop down a center line here just so I keep things pretty even, and then this is going to be that's going to be about the widest. Yeah, so that's going to be the widest that I'm going to go. So I will just work on sketching this out. Still not 100% certain on this interior element. It's going to depend on what it looks like once I get it into Illustrator. And then let's see. I think one of the hardest things about drawing back over what you did is trying to make sure that it doesn't get too tight. And essentially the way to do that is just don't try to actually copy what you did, because then it will get way too tight. So it's just kind of going off the feel of what I did. So I think these are going to kind of need to clean this up a little, separate that. Once I get these into Illustrator, I'm not going to follow these lines 100% either. It's not about getting the lines perfectly correct, it's just about getting the idea. Not really sure what I want to do with this exactly, so I still want to have, yeah, I'll do it like that. And then I need to round this part out. And this is going to get overlaid, so this feather needs a little something like that, a little line like that. And then this is the final one. Something like that. And then the center bit. I think this might be enough to take it into Illustrator because I'm going to do the final fixes in there. I still can't figure out how I want to have this feather look though. It's a little too chunky. Oh, that's better. And then that one comes like this. Oops. Yeah, that's good enough. All right. Get rid of these. And then I'm just going to duplicate this again, and I'm going to bring the whole thing into Illustrator so I have the whole thing to work on. I'm just going to line it up, and then I'm going to erase the bits I don't need. Okay, I'm going to save this as, save as a JPEG, and then I'm going to bring this into Illustrator. I like to save it this way just so I have a sketch of it in case I want to modify it and do something else with it. I'll just save it like that, and then switch over to Illustrator. I could just like drag it, but I don't want to do that. And I'm not going to link this or anything. I'm just gonna, I'm not actually gonna keep this file, so it doesn't matter what I do with it. And I'll size it up so it's good to work with. And drop the opacity down, and I'm going to basically turn this into a template. Go in here and lock that layer. Okay. So at this point, I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do as far as the actual shape versus the cutout shape. So for a damask, or damask, or however you call it, damask, I guess. So the damask is in two tones. So you have the color, and then you have essentially the background color, and they're the same thing. So a damask is made by the weaving technique. So if we go back to this picture here, this is going to be two tones. Usually it's one's lighter and one's darker. So really all I'm doing right now is figuring out what is going to be the shape and what is going to be the background. So let's see. I'll probably work with pen tool on this, and oh, I need colors. I'm just going to pick some colors to work with, and I'll worry about the actual color palette another time. So I'll just put those in there. I think I'm probably going to need two tones to do this one, just to figure out where things are going. So I'll start with that. I'm going to start way up here at the top in this little feather. Now I don't have a hugely clear view of what I'm doing here, and that's a good thing because I'm not going to end up repeating myself, which is not what I want to do. And then once I have the shape in, I'm just going to go back in and smooth things out and get it to be a decent shape the way that I want it to be. And And that's essentially how I'm going to do all of this. I think the pen tool is the easiest thing to use here because it's not going to do anything weird for me. I don't have to worry about it. I'm going to add a handle by weird. I'm just going to make it weird, but I'm just going to bring that back into shape. But if I was to do this with something like, what else could you use? So you could use like the blob brush tool, and that's going to be a lot harder to keep track of. So let me just, so that shape is done in whatever time that took me. And then I'm just going to do the same thing with the blob brush tool. And it's not that it can't be done and it can't look good. And actually it's not looking too bad right now. But I just think that there's less filling in to do and there's less messing with to do. Because now this has a lot more points. So now I'm going to have to go in here and really kind of straighten things out. So like this, so if we take these side by side, this one's already straightened out the way that I want it to be. And I'm just going to bring that out. Well, this one needs a lot more editing. So like I would need to edit this top and the bottom definitely, you know, just to get it to the same place. So I like using the pen tool. I use both of them though. I don't have a problem with either one. They're both fine. I'm not liking how this is going here though, so I'm just gonna smooth that out a bit. Yep, that's good. Okay. So I'm really not sure what I was drawing with this, so I'm gonna do like a little thing like this. Kind of see what happens. I mean, that's not bad. So I have these pieces down here. Whoops. These little B shapes down here that I have. I'm going to put those in a different color just so I can keep them separate for now. And then I can adjust them right in there. And adjust how I want them to lay with this other green one. So I already know that I need to flip it and put it there, and I'm going to bring this one to the top. I think they need to be more like this, almost like a plant. So I'm going to have them separate a little bit. Bring down this. And then put in that central shape. We'll work with that. It'll do for now. And I think actually I prefer the shape of this one. So I'm going to draw this over again. This shape's a little more interesting, but it went a little more rogue over here. I don't like zooming in this much, but in Illustrator it's kind of necessary at times. In Photoshop I would never do this in a million years, because you end up just getting too absorbed in what you're doing at too small of a level where it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's a better shape. It works with that, and I'm just going to flip it and put it on the other side. right. I have to do that. Forgot what program I was in. Okay, that's much better. So I'll just keep going with this. One place I do use the blob brush a lot is if I just want to put in like a quick detail. And I'm going to try doing like some kind of feather, central feather bit. Those aren't working. Let me try a brush instead. What we have for calligraphic. Yeah, that'll do. That's not bad. Let's see what it looks like once I remove it. Has potential. One thing I'm going to do, I haven't done this yet, I'm going to put a second window of this in on my other screen so I can have it zoomed in on the screen that you're looking at and then zoomed way out on my other screen so I can see the whole thing. Because it's not really helpful to only have a tiny, close-up view of something. And now that I'm looking at it, this feather bit right here, that is way too thin. I don't like that anymore. So I wonder if I have that in my histories. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to leave those out for now, and I'm just going to do the shapes, and then when I come back through, if there's something that I feel needs that little extra detail, I can do that at that point, as opposed to worrying about it right now. Okay. I'm already liking this pattern. It's not even a pattern yet. So I have it open on the other screen here and it's looking really cute. I like it. I think I'm going to round this. I'm just using the smooth tool to round things and then I can put them back if I don't like it. I don't like it. Yeah, I'll leave that as is right now. See if that works. Yeah, that works. I'm also going to just erase this little tail right there. I don't want it to be so sharp. Oops. Having less anchor points, like using the pen tool, also makes it a lot easier to edit when you get to this point, because there's only, like 10 points to have to edit, as opposed to before when I used the blob brush tool, there were probably like 200 points to have to look at. I'm just checking up above too. I like that. I'm going to leave this one long because that's going to go underneath this central element, which I'll work on at another time when I know exactly what I want to do there. So this one here, I'm going to do in reverse. So I'm going to look for the one that's all the way behind, which is this feather, and then I'm going to kind of come up from there, because otherwise I'm going to start to confuse myself. And when I make this pattern, I want to have spaces and gaps between each of these, so they're going to overlay in the meantime. Bring that all the way in. Okay, so that's the first one. Now the second one is going to get layered over that, so I'm going to change colors. To a different color to keep the confusion at bay, I hope. And I'm going to leave this in place for now, because I don't really need to see that line. I think this other feather is a different feather. This one in front here. I guess we'll find out. Really crazy about what's happening here. Not sure how to change that. I think I'm just going to delete that point and pretend that didn't happen. And then that works a lot better already. Okay, so the next one is going to go on top of that. Switch back to the darker color. And I'm going to start that one up here. Now my hope is that I can just come back through with offset path and create some gaps between these if I've laid them out correctly, which is anyone's guess at the moment. We'll see. Okay, so I'm not sure what this one wants to do here. So it wants to turn. And let it turn. What's that looking like up top? Actually, that looks fine. One of the things that is an issue with just keeping the sketch so zoomed in is that you can't see how it's looking from, from a zoomed out perspective. So that's why it's really helpful to have this on the side. So if I look at it from here, there's a few little things I want to tweak. I don't like how straight that is, but for the most part it looks fine. So move this back up top. So I just want to tweak the end here where it's a little too straight. It's a little bit better, and then this point here I don't want as a point, so I'll just remove that. Okay, so now I gotta move these out of the way to see what I'm doing here. I think this feather is actually going to be this whole thing. So all these pieces together, it's going to be one feather. So I'm going to go back to the light color and try making the whole thing. I don't want it to tuck underneath this other one, so I'm going to start out a little bit. Switch that around. And then get the whole shape. So that's including this little, whoops, this little bit on the end here. Okay. And with that, I have most of this done, I think. Oh, I got one more feather down there. And then I just have to figure out what I want to do for the central bit. This is actually, I thought this was going to be a lot harder of a pattern and it was going to take me a lot longer to do today. I'm kind of glad that it's not. I'm going to have to change this color to something else. Alright, so let's see. This stacks here. This one is here. This one is here. And I'm just looking at this point to see if I have to modify anything where they overlap, and I do. So I'm going to add a point and do it that way. I'm just want to make sure that I'm covering all these gaps. I don't have any bits in between. Okay. I'm going to leave the worst of that till the end. So the worst of that is really going to be figuring out how to make sure there's separation between each of them, because they're all going to be the same color. Don't want this one to be overlapping, I don't think. Just do it like that for now, and then let's see, how are these supposed to go? They're supposed to go up? Is that what I was doing? Well, that is definitely not what I was doing. Hold on. What happened here? So it's like that, and then like this. Yeah, I think that's what I was doing. Yeah, there we go. There we go. All right. That's good, that's good. Comes around like that. Just making sure on the other screen that it's working too, and it is. Nope, that's not. It's working a bit better. Okay, so on second thought, I think I do want this to go underneath here. How does that look? Yeah, I think I like that better. Okay, so I'm going to scroll out for a second. Oops, which screen am I on? Scroll out for a second. So all these are going to be the same color. So if I do that now, then it looks fine, but it kind of just looks like a blob. So I'm going to try, hopefully, to put an offset path around each of these. So probably 3 pixels, maybe 5. Let's go with 4. And I'll pick a background color. And then let's just pick that light color. So I'm going to do that with each of these, and I'm going to try to go in the same order that I had that in. So now that I'm looking at the other screen, that's way too small. So I'm going to go back to 5, I think. Maybe even 6. Let's try 6. What did I do next? I did this one. Okay, yep, that gives me the kind of space that I want between each of these. So I think I am going to go back through and add some detail in all these, but for now that's good. Now I'm going to group these lower feathers together, and I'm going to group the top feathers together. All right, so now it's time to work on this central element. Let's pick a different color entirely. And then I just really want to put in the basic shape. And then for this one, it also has this shape in the middle. And then I think I'm going to put another shape in the middle of that. Now I forgot to put a center line here, so I'm going to have to put that. So I'm making sure that all these are central. So I'll do that in a second. Right now I'm just going to change the colors on these. Oh, I don't even have rulers right now. Okay, so the central point, I'm going to go off the tip of that, whatever this is. Line that up and then adjust the bottom. Now because it's me, it's not going to be exact, but it's just to get an idea. And actually I'm just going to cut out these two. And then I'm going to leave this bit in the middle. That needs to come up, I think. And then come out a bit. What does that look like? It's okay. We'll see. Trim these off. Okay, so now while I have the center line in here, because I'm essentially done with the pattern itself, I'm just going to straighten things out so they actually show up on center. And then I'm going to repeat it just to see what it looks like. I'm going to have to square this off at the bottom here too, but that I can do. Okay, so that's pretty squared off there. That's good there. And then the only other thing I've done so far is the bottom, so I just want to make sure, yep, it's on the other side. I'll just go all the way out. And now I'm just going to repeat these motifs on the other side. Try to find like a central point. Okay. I think I have too many, yep, I have too many of these up here. But other than that, it's good. Okay. So right here, I'm not liking how close these are. This is a little too close, so I'm going to go in and adjust one of them and then flip it back over. Okay. Oops. Forgot this part. All right, so that's where it's at right now. I need to bring this central bit up to the top so it's overlapping those pieces, and I think I'm going to do offset path on this too, just to make sure that it has enough room around it. And then I'll just do the final bits. Yep, that looks good. And then bring this central bit to the very top so it's not squished. And then I just have to figure out what I want to do for the center bit. So I had a couple ideas for here. One idea was to do three. Was to do pretty much essentially triangles. So splitting this space in half. Let's see, where would half be? Half would be around, well, size-wise would be about there. And then shrinking this down like this. Because I've seen this sort of motif in a couple of the pieces that I've looked at. And then let's see, you take that whole thing and reverse it upside down. So that's one option. I think I need to space these better. Okay, so that's one option. And I think I'll keep that in reserve. I would fill in a little bit more, but that's just for that. Okay, move that off to the side. And then another option is to use the line tool and basically draw what I have here. Leave that, and let's see. Well, let's try that. And I'm going to reverse some of these so it's not all the same, but don't really like that either. Let me just take that out. Let's try the brush tool and calligraphy brush. That's not really what I'm looking for either. I think it's kind of like a combination of a couple of these is what I'm looking for, really. Because I want it to be more close together and uniform. This is kind of getting there. So I think I'm going to work on this. I'm going to shrink these down. What do I want to do? I wonder if I could take maybe that kind of shape. Yeah, let's try that. I'm going to try to stick with this same kind of shape that I have here because it's not as uniform as I was doing it. And I'm going to try to get maybe a little bit closer. Where would they be switched over? This one? Oops. Maybe. At least this is more interesting than what I had. I'm not 100% sold on this either, but needs something. Slide those up more or less. What if I did that? I like that better actually. Because now it has like a shape to it, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to have to go back through and line these up, but yeah, I like that idea better. It's got like a stitch kind of look to it. Actually, I think I want to do it this way too. So instead of lining these up, have more like a diamond shape. Yeah, I like this better. It kind of fills in the space better, I think. Alright, so now that I'm repeating this on both sides, I probably should pick the better side and then straighten it out and repeat it. That's straight. Alright, so one thing I'm not going to worry about apparently is whether or not they're straight left to right, because I don't want to go through the work of straightening that all out. I'm just going to rely on up and down. Okay. Okay, so I think that's what I want to do there. The only thing I'm going to do now is clean it up and add some details. And I hope now that I'm saying that these are all grouped. They are not grouped. Okay. Let me just group these. I really wish I would have grouped them. Crisis averted. All right. So let's see what I want to do here. I definitely want to add little feathery bits to the center of these feathers. I'm certain of that. So get a different color. Tilt that a bit. Okay. What I'm not sure of is how it's going to go. I'll do yellow so I can see it well. Let's see how that pans out. And that's a little better if I do that. So if I add just little bits, I need a different brush though. If I add just little bits, so I'm going to go with this brush, I think. Nope, I'm not. You know what, I'm going to put those back in. There we go. Oh, really wishing I hadn't deleted those. They actually look good. Now I've deleted them. Oh, that works though. Something like this. Okay, and then down here, I'll do that too. Can't figure out like which line I want to have as this. I guess I'll try this too. No, that doesn't work any better. Okay, that's enough of that. So these are, what did I do these as? I'm just going to trim these now. Get them where I need them to be, which is inside the shapes. Some of them apparently I did as brushes and some I didn't, as some are shapes and some are brushes. So I'm just going to turn them all into shapes as opposed to strokes, just to make it a little easier when I go to turn it into a pattern. I found that actually the pattern maker doesn't, like when you're making a pattern, it doesn't actually care whether it's a stroke or a brush, but I like to have everything the same. Right there. So I'm just, if it's a line, I'm just expanding the appearance and then putting it back to a shape. And then this is almost done. Oh, I'm using the Pathfinder to put it into one thing. And then I'm going to use the Pathfinder again to, let me go into this, oops, and take each one of these and essentially cut out the line. I'll change the color in a minute, but I just want to get that central bit cut out. You know what I'm going to do, instead of doing that way, maybe if I do this way, it'd be a little better. Because then I'll have more control. So I'm using the trim tool as opposed to cutting it out. And then I'll just remove that when I'm ready. Okay, then I just come back in and take out the center bit. So let's see, how is that arranged? This one was the top. Oh yeah, okay. So when I did that, the way I was doing it, it trimmed all the way down to the base. So I'm just going to fix this shape, I think. Hold on, I gotta figure out the layers here a second. I guess I'll do it up here because it doesn't make a difference. Okay, now down here it's a little more confusing. Alright, so that's that shape. This is the shape. There we go. It's just a matter of like making sure you're clicking on the right shape, which isn't always easy. There we go. Now I think I have all the layers back. Let me just scroll out. Yes, I think so. All right. Let me just get rid of this guide and then we can make the pattern. Okay. So everything that is different shades of green is going to be the same shade of green. And the yellow, no idea where the yellow is. Hold on. Where is this yellow? It's not even there. So, okay. We'll just make that into a green. And then, what did I do here? That's the background color. So I also want these central bits to be green. And I need to bring up this central bit to the very top, so it's over top all those other layers. And move that around. So obviously I only put the lines on the one side, so I'm going to flip it over so it's on the other side too. So I'm just going to delete this side again. And then put this side back together. It's one group, this is a group. Okay, so that's all ready to work on. This side's a little too far over, I think, and down. And then let's see, how was it? Oops. Let's go right there. Okay, so that's the whole pattern. I'm going to bring in this top bit, actually, it's too far away. And then I'm going to grab one of my layouts and put this together into a full pattern. I think I just found the yellow bit. Okay. So I have a whole list of, a whole page of just repeating layouts. And these are just general layouts to give me kind of an idea of what I'm doing. And the one that I'm doing right now is sort of a diamond repeat, so that's the one I'm going to take. This isn't strictly necessary, but kind of makes it easier for me to visualize it. And then I'm going to shrink this one down and make this more of a template. Okay, so with this shrink down to fit in here, roughly, I'm going to see what kind of layout do I want. I'm not necessarily going to stick with this diamond layout, and I don't think I will actually, but it's kind of, it's a place that I can start from. And then I think I'm going to do this sort of thing. So it's a diamond layout, but it's a little bit closer. Move that out of the way. Okay. Yeah, I think that's what I want to go for. So I'm going to make a box that's going to go behind it, and I'm going to use the same color that I used for the offset path. And let's see, what is the repeat? If I do from the top of this to the top of this, and then I want to make sure to have one in the middle and one on the side, so I'm going to go back down to here. That's what I'm going to do for my repeat. My box is 169 by 165. I'm going to do 170 by 165. And then I'm going to get rid of everything that's not in that box. Oops, I should have put a color to that box. And then slide that to the back, and then let's see, I'm going to need all these actually. So the first thing I'm going to do is line up this one to the top. And then this one I'm going to center. And then essentially that's all I need. So I can get rid of all the rest of these. Okay. So my box is 165 high, so I want to move this one down by half. So transform, move, and then 0 in the horizontal and 165 divided by 2. Is this negative or, yeah, okay. And then I'm going to move this one down again. This time I'm doing the whole 165. This one over here, the box is 170, so I'm going to move it over 170. Now, you know what? I'll do the vertical first. So the vertical is going to be 165 divided by 2. Yeah, but that's a little too close. So I'm actually going to line this one up with the bottom of the box. And then if I move this one all the way back down again, let's see what that does. Yep, that'll work. Okay, so then I just need to move these two over. What did I say, it was 170? And then just to double check, I'm just going to move these down the full 165. Yep, that works fine. And then just duplicate this box, paste in place, no fill, no stroke, and send to the back. And then I can take this whole thing into the swatches panel as a pattern and then test it. Thought I had another artboard here. Oh well. Yep, that works. So I'm going to scale this up because I made it pretty small. If I wanted to scale up the actual pattern itself, like say this is gone, so I'm actually going to delete all of that, I can just pull out the exact swatch that I made right there, and then I could just size it up, let's say like that big, and then take this whole thing and make a new swatch of it. Should change the size. Yep, there we go. I'll delete that again. So let's see, what should we do with color? I don't know if I really like either of the color libraries that I have up at the moment. I just want to get like a general idea for a color. Let's put this one in there too. No, that one's already there. Okay. I like the dark color of that. I'll keep that in mind. It's dark purple. Oh, I like that. Needs to be brightened up a bit, but I like that. This one's pretty too. It's like, what is that, a brown and a blue? Has potential. The ones that are too stark, like I could just tone down the colors and then that would fix that. I'm gonna go with that for now. I can already see there's some things like the feathers at the top here, these secondary lines are too thin, so I can pull that out and then readjust one of these. So I might do that at a later date, but for now I'm just going to play with the color for a little bit, kind of bring it down a little. Let's see, I want a little bit lighter, I think. Desaturate it a bit and make it a bit warmer. And on the other side I'm going to make it a bit cooler. Actually, I'm going to make it quite a bit cooler and come into the blues. You know what, let me just make it the same color. Actually, I kind of like that. It kind of has the feel of what I was going for. It's maybe a little... Yeah, let's go with that. There we go. So that's the final pattern. Yeah. So thanks so much for joining me. I will be working on an actual schedule soon. I think for now, we'll probably be doing Thursdays at 3 o'clock. I'll put it on the upcoming lives though, so you can see when those are. And yeah, I'll see you then. I don't know what I'm going to be working on. We'll just see what I get up to next week. And yeah, I'll see you then. Thanks so much for joining me. See you next time.